with that, I'm so excited today to be speaking with the members of Greta Van Fleet about their journey, and we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into how they build resilience while they're out on the road, how they sustain their wellness and really take care of themselves and each other. So with that, everyone, let me go ahead and welcome to the stage Greta Van Fleet.
Bitchin' intro music.
Testing. I see empty seats up there.
What is this about?
What's going on?
What is this about? Did you pay for your ticket?
Is this sold out?
All right, that was rhetorical.
Guys, we're so delighted to have you. Thank you guys for taking the time to do this today. So this group obviously knows incredibly well everything that you've done, but I just want to share a little bit about your bio and what you guys are bringing in terms of major skills to this conversation today. So you're, of course, a Grammy award-winning rock band based right here in beautiful Nashville. You are one of the most in-demand live rock acts of the generation, of, let's be frank, every generation, all of our generations.
Like that.
And you've sold over 1 million tickets worldwide. I know, kind of impressive when you hear it read back.
Is that true? Is
We
that
did?
true? Collective like that.
I think
all
It's
together.
gotta be true.
I looked it up
It's
this
gotta
morning.
be.
It's
It
true.
was on Wikipedia.
Cite your sources.
It was, exactly. So guys, just to get us started today, would you guys mind just introducing yourselves and telling us what you do within the band?
Also looked that one up this morning.
You did.
Good. I forgot myself. I'm Jake. I'm a guitarist.
I'm Daniel. I'm the drummer.
And I'm Sam. I do bass and keys or whatever needs to be taken care of.
Facilitated.
And I'm Josh, and I play the vocals.
That's amazing, guys. So we'd love to hear a little bit about your journey as a band, and how did you guys get to where you are today? Loaded question.
Yeah, we start with that
exactly.
one.
Start with this off.
This is what you call opening a can of worms, I think.
Yeah, we'll start in the beginning. You see, the beginning, the great nothingness.
Ah, yes, there you go.
No, it's interesting. I
Really?
mean, it depends on which one of us you ask that we sort of get an origin story. But you know, it's sort of. I mean, it's interesting. It always starts with the ethos of beginning with arts and music, and it was like we all sort of grew up in a I say musically bohemia. Yeah, really, sort of a musically and artistically fluid environment. So it was like films and. It wasn't just music either, it was sort of conducive to everything. So it was like film, and it was literature and music and sort of philosophy, and it was sort of free form. It's the same with Daniel. We were sort of drawn together at some point, and that's sort of where it started, this like-mindedness, and it certainly helps being within the confines of that together as a sort of a collective, because we kind of share those influences, and that language becomes a sort of form of communication among all of us, and that's really where it began, and music was just sort of what happened, I suppose.
I think no matter what, Jake was going to play guitar forever.
I'd be poor in the streets
He
with
always
probably without
did.
these guys.
He always
Yeah.
did. So then Josh would come
Exactly.
out and start singing out.
You should really do something with this guitar, Jake. That's what I said. He had no self-esteem with the thing. He'd been playing
But
with it
enter-
since he
True.
was
enter
crawling
Josh.
over it.
I'm a shy boy.
And then Jake
Yeah, he's a
started,
shy boy.
Jake
Shy
started
boy.
poaching drummers from jazz band in high school.
One.
And yeah,
Poaching them. That's
Poaching
a good
them.
use of words.
Actually,
he was hunting,
hunting them in the
stealing
wild.
them
Jake is a hunter.
for the
that's what
greater
he does.
cause. And then I was forcefully made to play bass. And then
Against his will.
And then when Daniel joined the band, then we were off and running. And then it was like, yes, this is Greta Van Fleet.
for the record, I was not poached.
No,
No.
Just hunted.
he went voluntarily.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, but I mean, in terms of this sort of environment, it's interesting to consider that, a boy with a guitar and a dream turned into something like this.
Oh wow, you're
That's
gonna.
pretty incredible.
Is that
So
the thesis?
it can be
of your-
done.
Your book.
it can be done.
And then started the craziest summer of
Of our lives.
Ever.
That's amazing. And I think the message, it can be done, is of course really important today and what we're talking about. So I'd love to just know a little bit. So you guys wake up, you had a show the last night, or you've got a show tonight. What's the day like
We
for
do?
you guys? No, you don't.
Shit.
So what's a typical day like for you guys?
I think it's all at this point pretty well tailored to each individual person. At the beginning, we were all going through the same exact schedule, but now we kind of figured out, oh, I want to be at the venue at noon. Daniel, you're the first one.
I
at
am the
venue.
first one. Yeah.
He's always the first, Daniel.
Oh,
Daniel
nice.
was the first one today, I will
Yeah,
admit.
see? Prime example. Yeah, but I don't know. I like to get into the venue like maybe 2 hours or so before going on stage, because I feel like there is an energy in a place like that. I feel like it can be a little overwhelming if I'm there too long. I start to get inside my head, and so if I can just distract myself, in a way that's peaceful and conducive to
It's escapism.
getting the
I actually go in and
What's
get the whole
wrong with
venue set up for
escapism?
him.
I actually really enjoy going out, like stealing a runner, like the van drivers, and
Not driving, of course.
abducting them. No, but then we go out.
Poaching.
We go out to a
abducting.
We go out to a
Kettle
park. We go out to a park
But it's
because
all
I
about-
like to immerse myself in nature, because on the road you never really get that. It's city to city to city, a lot of concrete. So I like to be out where the trees are really tall and I feel like I'm part of the global system for a little bit.
Yeah, you can actually go a week or some without even seeing the sunshine sometimes, because you're playing the show and then you get to the bus and then you go to the next the next hotel and then you get up and you get into the venue, and it's just sort of like you haven't even seen the sunshine. You have to go outside to make sure it's still there sometimes. It hasn't come down with a falling sky or anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
You see a lot.
Good reference. He just
I
quoted
will be saying farewell
himself.
for now. For now, at the end of this, when we're way out.
That was pretentious.
I'm
But
sorry,
anyway,
we're doing really good. Usually, well, duh. Usually we talk over each other a lot.
No, we're just
Not
getting
much-
What do you
started.
mean?
guys.
What are you talking about? Is it-
Oh yes,
Absolutely.
What do you mean? It's
really, that's the thing.
bullshit,
I
Joe.
can't even believe you said that.
Who decorated? This is really fun.
It's fabulous, isn't it?
but anyway, then we get ready for the show.
Oh yeah, then the show comes.
Right.
Josh usually shows up,
Shows.
and he is. He thinks he's the show.
Don't give him that.
Great, you back in the back now. You.
That's why
But
people
yeah,
buy. That's why people buy tickets.
We all have our
Come
own
see
process
me.
of warming up. Josh likes to scream in the shower for 2 hours.
He doesn't enjoy it,
No.
but it's required.
Painful process.
It's required. Yes.
But yeah, I think there's really something about, getting on the stage not too prepared, where you know exactly what
Boy,
you're
he would know all about it.
yeah, I'm saying, well, no,
Do you
you
ever
He's
have,
almost
the
missed
show
the
around?
stage.
you have to, for
Well,
me,
just
you
know
kind of
he's
have to
just
keep it
phoning
light
it in the whole
and
time.
exciting, and like it almost like you're doing it for the first time and keeping that alive, even though we've played the show a few times.
That can get into all kinds of territories. It's another thing too with sort of live performance, and it sort of I think transcends music. Directing and filmmaking and all forms of art is this sense of sort of nuance in the beginnings of it, the excitement of doing something. And if you do it every single night, there's certain ways I think of keeping something alive and fresh and inspired. And I think with the way that we do it is we have the way the set is actually set up does that. Is like, all of these tracks that we play every night are completely different, and they're so highly nuanced that they're sort of jam sections, they're versions of themselves, which I think, it's just exciting for us every night as it would be for an audience. Even if someone's gone to every show on the tour, you're seeing something different every night, and it sort of keeps it inspired.
Yeah, because it may be the same song that you're playing, but it feels different every night, and in some sense it is different every night, because you can never be in that moment, that very moment at that same time again. It's only going to happen one time, and those faces and those reactions and that celebratory spirit that has basically only happens just like in every insular moment, and you have to remember how special that is, and you can't fall out of love with it, otherwise there's no point. it's like you have to stay inspired. And for me, I just keep cranking out jumpsuits. I'll just another outfit, another outfit, another outfit, and that really helps.
Comic relief.
Yeah.
Quite a good bit. That wasn't supposed to be funny.
It was
no, I'm
funny, wasn't it?
But it's
sacred the
amazing 'cause
thread, darling. You know. I did it again. See, I'm telling you.
Wrote it himself.
Just wait till
Good
the
tism.
end. I mean, farewell for now.
Actually, an album campaign.
It's rigged. He wrote this. This is scripted, right?
It is 100%. Yeah,
All
100%.
prompted up there.
Yeah. I love it though, because I think it speaks to the way you guys build relationships every night in different ways with the audience, with the fans, with your community. And so I'd love to know, as part of that, when you're touring, you're all over the world, you've got this incredibly different day-to-day lifestyle. How do you actually sustain relationships at home with the people who matter in your lives to keep that social connectedness?
Well,
They know what they signed up for.
Well, that's
don't.
actually a good point. I think
Yeah.
for starters, they're all extremely supportive, and that's a huge factor in all of it. So they support what we do, and we obviously reciprocate that. As far as family goes, it's they travel out to as many shows as they can, and we love to have them and host them at as many shows as we can. And it's just kind of about remaining in touch and keeping that communication going as you're traveling and sharing your experiences, and not keeping everything to yourself. Which
yeah. I mean, it's certainly not easy. It's one of those other complexities of something, especially when you get into, I mean, and we haven't gotten into this territory of our lives, but children and things like of that sort. It's like you traveling a lot, and there's like the sensitive things. It's a complex sort of landscape to try to navigate. But I think with that is. It certainly helps. I think, especially being that we're all family, that we're all brothers, and that we sort of there's this tight knit nature to what we do. So family, I think, is at the sort of peak of it. But I think keeping close together and keeping that world finite, because it's like us, and then the family that surrounds us, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty condensed, and
It's a very good point. We keep kind of a tight circle around our world, which is really horrible and insular. No, I'm just kidding. It's great because
it's shit, isn't it?
everybody that we really regularly see really is considered family.
Yeah, I think it's about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
And then the first thing I do when I get home is I throw dishes out in the kitchen.
Opa!
And that's how I basically live home.
You shop at IKEA a lot and buy a lot of dishes over and over. Yeah, I get that.
exposed.
Quantity
Like
over
those-
quality.
Those have been expensive,
feels
just
good.
thrown around. That's ridiculous.
Well, it adds up, but it's worth it for the sake of
Sanity.
sanity. For the sake of sanity, I'll crash a couple dishes.
So guys, I'd love to know, kind of building on that theme, you guys have really discussed before about how seeing the world through touring, kind of experiencing the world as you tour, has really changed the way that you create music, the way that it's influenced your later albums. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about how that experience of travel and touring and seeing the world has really changed you personally.
It's hard for it not to have.
Yeah.
We grew up in a very, very small town in the middle of Michigan, and we were exposed to very little growing up.
What they call it, Mid-Michigan.
They call it Mid-Michigan,
that's the thing.
or well, that's about as creative
Very
as they
mid,
could
very,
get.
Yeah,
very
no,
middle.
Very.
It's very
Uh,
middle.
No, but we were in a unique situation where we basically essentially left high school and started becoming exposed to the massive world, and immediately started seeing other countries in Europe, and it's amazing because every time we came back from one of those trips, we felt like we had a different understanding of a different piece of the world, and it started adding up, and we could go relate to family and friends, and as you continue to follow through with that pattern, it starts to reflect in your personal creative, as far as music goes, lyrically, certainly. Any of those lyrics to add?
Not as of now.
We'll come back to that.
Yes, we'll definitely come back to that.
Yes, it is interesting. It's like, I mean, we talk about like sort of the idea of being an artist and sort of creating and using your mind in a way that I think a lot of people don't necessarily get to do because we're thinking outside the box, and that's good to apply to everything. But I think consciousness becomes a bit more, I think, dynamic. It becomes stretched when you consider ideas and philosophies and things that you hadn't, and so the cultures, traditions, people, places, ideas, things, they all sort of add up to a total sort of sub-part of consciousness, and I think we have all
An
once you
eclectic
experience that.
ethos, an
Yeah,
eclectic ethos.
exactly.
It's just
Exactly. Thank you. But
Telepathy.
So many words, yeah.
But I think that helps, and I think that again we talk about this and on all these artists sitting in the room, and on the idea of that is to stretch the imagination, and I think that for us creating records and making music, seeing these cultures in the world in that way has just broadened our perspective.
Yeah, because you read about them or see them in pictures or things like that, but the actually being in those places and meeting the people is a huge deal. There's something about the tradition or the philosophy or the all of these sacred things to those places that sort of sink into your DNA, because you kind of as an artist absorb them. And so I think that one way or another they come out, when you're reaching into that space to try to pull something out and create something, then it sort of, I think, translates in that way.
Absolutely. So what's the creative process for you like when you're on the road? Do you create music when you're on the road? Is it too chaotic? How do you actually have some time to
Well, we
to process
tarnish
that?
the romanticism of our process if we get into it a little bit.
Yeah, we can't talk about it.
I always remember that was really funny. There was something like, I think George Harrison was working with the Monty Python group to do the Life of Brian, and he went there to see the shoot, and they were bickering the whole time. And Eric Idle, one of the Python guys, had said, I think he just saw our process, and it kind of ruined what he thought it was. And he's like, if I saw the Beatles in the studio bickering, I probably wouldn't want to see that either.
Romanticism right out the window.
I mean,
Just gone.
I think when we're writing, there's a little bit of, there's definitely, warfare, and you try to be.
Put it lightly, it's
you
just
try
a
to
bit
be
of warfare.
reasonable.
That's all. Just a little war, and that's.
Try to be reasonable. I mean, at the end, we're all on the same team. We're working together to collaborate to create a concept. And I think when you're constantly moving about, there's this busyness of the mind that you can't hush, and so you can kind of harness it. I think if you to be able to aim it in the right direction and use that energy to create something, and that happens a lot when you're touring, and we're forced to kind of be in the same spaces. So whenever, of course, we see each other in those rare, strange hours, then things happen, and then you kind of try to catch it.
It's interesting because I can remember a handful of times where we've actually written songs on stage while we're performing a show. It's like with his new, like again, those sections that we sort of improvise. There's been things from those that have turned into entire songs on their own, and so I think same thing on the bus. We'd work something out. We'd be playing guitar. Like
Everybody's sober.
Yeah, the entire time.
All time.
That certainly doesn't help. But it's it's great because I think you live through your art. I think as a touring musician, your every single day is to be the artist living through your work, and so you don't intend to pick up a guitar or an instrument or whatever, and then you write a song. It just happens.
In reality, touring takes up the majority of our schedule for the year, so you have to learn how to stay creative and keep that part of you active while you're on the road.
Alcohol
as much
doesn't help.
Alcohol does not help.
Yeah.
But no,
Gets you places, but no, in the long run, probably not a great idea.
no, but really. I mean, it's important to exercise that part of you on the road as well.
Yeah, and that was a perfect plug because I was going to ask about actual exercise and kind of physical wellness. And how do you guys manage that? Obviously, you go find a place to have your feet on the grass, you find some trees, your little moments of escape. But how do you actually stay healthy? How do you take care of yourselves?
I won't lie, it took a few years to figure out because you're thrown into this new world, and you really want to start with the little things and focus on learning how to sleep on a bus or learning how to sleep with these weird time schedules, and your whole day from morning to night actually shifts later because bus call is 2 or 3 in the morning. So you start with
Then
that.
you're jumping time zones.
You're jumping time zones,
Which
and
is
then
not
that affects your
helpful.
eating. So I start with those little things, and then I got to a point where I wanted to physically become a little bit more healthier, and so I started this past year waking up and going on runs and running around the towns, and it's a great way to kind of go see a city, but also just staying active. One of my dad's favorite quotes is, "You stop moving, you die."
It's true.
And,
That's nice.
And you can't do shit. You
I
can't.
mean-
You can't do shit when you're
My grandfather used to say, you can't do shit when you're dead.
That's why we're here. This is my favorite kind of exercise.
Yeah.
If there's one that you take away, from this, it's your grandpa's advice, right? You can't do shit when you're dead.
That's it.
That is the takeaway.
You know,
for
it's nice
today.
hearing it come from
Right.
your mouth.
Basically,
Actually,
right.
you hear you say that. It's really nice.
That's,
It's always Josh saying, "You can't do shit when you're dead," but it's nice to hear someone else say it. It's realized.
So that's great. So you guys, you find the places to go running, you find your little escapes, but what else did you have to learn? Because I think especially if you haven't necessarily traveled a lot yet professionally, it can feel frankly really glamorous, and learning how to sleep on a bus isn't super glamorous. So what are some of the other things that you had to figure out?
how to stay entertained, is also another thing. Because the moment you become so stagnant, you start
die.
feeling yourself slipping, and,
As
then all
Dan
of a sudden,
Wagner would
your
say.
limbs go cold. And I think that what was the question you asked?
I remember the answer.
delineated.
but I don't remember the question.
Exactly. It was, well, now I've forgotten it too. So it was
Shit.
essentially like, when you guys started touring, what were the things that really surprised you that you had to kind of learn how to do in a touring way? Like, how do you eat again? How do you interact?
How
Well,
to sleep 2 feet away from this guy.
Yeah.
Right again.
It's
He
Good
snores.
scarring.
He
Luck-
talks in his sleep.
Luckily, going back to the bohemian, upbringing, life on the road isn't too dissimilar from that.
Mhm.
Everybody's jamming on the drums and keyboards and stuff and singing songs. And I remember I'd be like sleeping underneath a table, like on the wood. And so it was just outrageous. And, I was used to being kept up late or, getting up early or doing pretty much everything we do on the road anyway.
Yeah, again, it was helpful to kind of have the upbringing we did, but it's still chaotic. And I think it is as fun as it can be. It can also be that equally as exhausting. So it's really, again, finding the rest and the time for rest and time for exercise, which is integral to being able to do this. Otherwise, I don't think it'd be at all possible. And that, I think, is one of the trickiest things about what we do all together.
So guys, I just have to ask, you guys have talked a little bit about your upbringing, more of a bohemian lifestyle. For folks who are not familiar with Frankenmuth, Michigan, will you guys tell us a little bit? There is a singular holiday that dominates the town. Could you
Yes.
guys talk a little
No
bit about
shit.
that?
Why are
'Cause it's
people laughing?
Silver bell,
unique.
Is there something funny
Yeah.
about
Because it's
that?
a very silly place.
silver bell.
What's so funny
Oh,
about people
Christmas
dressing up
time
like elves
in
and
the
walking
city.
around?
Oh, what's so funny about
Yeah.
Lederhosen and
Well, they're wearing Lederhosen the
the
whole time. they're
biggest
saying it.
Christmas store in the world?
Yeah, if you didn't get it, it's Christmas.
It's a very it's weird. It is like almost what you'd think of as like the traditional term of the bohemian kind of thing, but it is a weird place because it's Little Bavaria, they call it, which is sort of like they've got, so it's a German town with this interesting heritage, and it looks German. I mean, everything about it is kind of Bavarian, and it's known for having the biggest Christmas store in the world, they call it. It's a very bizarre.
Hold for applause.
I call it that because it is.
And also, growing up there,
If you haven't
would
been, I
have-
wouldn't save your allowance.
it was more of a more of a tourist town. So you get all of these people coming in for Snowfest or Auto Fest, and we would get to have kind of like a new crowd every time we played like the local official hall. Really. But we got a new crowd like every festival, So it was great to have all these people.
They said we couldn't bring anything that wasn't,
Hell is
that
that?
didn't have like a Fiji logo on it. And I said, well, there's nothing about a flask that would be too distracting. There's
Exactly.
nothing on it. It's just a flask, so I think it would pass. I didn't bring one, but I was thinking.
What was the question again?
Frankenmuth.
Oh, Frankenmuth.
Thank you for that, Jake. Thank
We
you.
often try to avoid this one.
You do.
Yeah, as you can see.
I love it. I've been to Frankenmuth. It's a wonderful town.
No.
Have you?
I have. It's got amazing fried chicken, not Nashville fried chicken, but you
No.
guys do have some good fried.
It's
Okay.
What was your impression of that? What was your takeaway?
Yeah, let's turn
The
this
interesting
around a
thing-
little bit.
Has it changed your life experiences?
Guys, I'm not going to lie. The 365 of Christmas is a little a little interesting. It's a little unnerving to be in
It's-
nonstop.
it's
Let's
weird.
hear
She
it.
just said
Let's
it's
hear
really-
it.
You want to know exhausting? That's exhausting. And you're in this 24/7 Christmas globe,
Right.
and you skip
hell.
school like it's a cartoon. It's really fucked up.
Exactly.
That was it.
That was
Okay.
it.
What
Well,
he
that's-
said.
That's why we asked, because we know nothing else. We grew up in that environment, so to us it was normal.
Well, and there's so many festivals there.
Until we
There's like
realized
a
it
festival
wasn't.
every weekend or something. It's crazy. So that's where we started playing first. Was in the streets of the outside the cafe, and then there was this hall in town that we would play, and we'd have the doors wide open when we would have festivals and things like that. So it was interesting. In the one year, we had the name Greta Van Fleet up on the marquee, and there's actually a Greta Van Fleet who we took the name from, who lives in Frankenmuth, and she's still around. She's
Her birthday
think
was
in
the other day.
late 80s. Her birthday was the other day. She
Amazing.
sent
Oh.
gifts, she sent pictures. It was cute. But so we had the name up on the marquee, and then people started calling her and asking, "What are you doing at the hall?" This is really weird. So her and her husband had to come investigate to see what was going on, and then there's like these like half-naked barbarians on the stage.
Yeah, we were hot
Us.
shit
He
back
was talking
then.
about us.
We were hot shit back then.
Yeah, we were. It was something. Remember those days?
Those were the days.
Ironically, I was one of those
Whatever.
curious spectators at that show as well.
Yeah,
This
because
is
you weren't
the-
the drummer.
This is the crazy thing. Daniel would show up, at our
Percussionist,
house,
rather,
at some point.
Pardon.
But he'd see all the shows and stuff, so he could get up and he could play all my guitar parts, so he could play all the drum parts that we were doing.
And
it was
bass
like-
parts and vocal
And
parts.
then
So
Danny is
then
a
we realized-
multi-instrumentalist. That's something that people a lot of the time don't know about him. He's a fantastic player of all sorts.
Because I have pointy shoes.
That's why.
He's an
That's the
artist.
secret. That's exactly
an
why.
artist.
That's the secret.
So we did have a conversation earlier. The
Because he's
pointier your
point-
shoes,
Pointy
the more
feet.
creative you are.
Ah.
So
I was just
Yeah.
saying, like the pointier
Got
your
some pointy
feet.
shoes up here.
we don't know if that's
Oh, those are
evidence,
really
but
She's really creative.
You are.
we've got some good ones
Just
here. guys.
pointy boots. I've got a bit of
Wow.
round going on. I think Daniel's more creative right now.
Yeah.
So guys, maybe
Unfortunate.
with that, I'd love to know a little bit. So Josh, you mentioned like you like to get to a venue a couple hours beforehand, but you also want to navigate being there too soon, getting too much time
Yeah.
in your head. And so how do you manage your mental health, your mental wellness when you've got this really chaotic schedule that takes you away sometimes from the norm?
Sometimes I think that the people around me that I surround myself with, who are with us day to day,
Stress you out.
all the time, really stress. No, they're wonderful people, and I think a lot of the time that really helps because they can
Yeah.
kind of keep you in check. And if you're having a really tough time, that you can kind of talk to them, and they can sort of give you like the hug that you needed that day, or just to talk about what's going on. And if I feel a little trapped, I'm like losing it. I think, and that sort of thing.
It goes back to the
I
whole
even-
family thing. We're a
Yeah.
family.
Exactly. So if you're surrounded by people that you love and enjoy and trust, that's really huge. And of course, yeah. So I think that's a big part of it for
Yeah, I think the family thing certainly helps. I imagine that even the sort of pop stars who are kind of isolated and singular can be a bit challenging because they've just they don't really have the infrastructure around them to keep it.
Well, it's not necessarily built in automatically. 'Cause
Right.
There is like the four of us who are very close, and we can have those conversations.
because it could
you
be
know.
overwhelming.
Like literally one day I was in the jam room, we call it. I was playing something on the keys, and Sam I think got on the kit, and then all of a sudden I like just broke down. I was just something about this song. It was like, wow, I must be exhausted, or maybe I'm stressed out. But there's something about this just like just lost it, And he came to me and he said, "You all right?" And we sat together and talked, and it was like, felt much better. This is right before
I always like
show,
to-
too, because
yeah.
there's
I
always
said,
so much
Josh,
emotional
Josh,
tension going
Josh,
on
Josh.
all the time.
It's okay. Stop being a.
Not being such a yeah.
It's interesting because I think like with musicians or
Nicest
people
thing
who
anyone's ever said to me.
tour or travel, they're sort of on the edge of oblivion all the time. You're sort of always on the edge of reality and this dream world because what you're doing is so complexly dissimilar from what people would do with a normal job. Like wake up, shower, get to work, and then go home and see the kids
it's
and
not
have
a 9
dinner.
to
You don't
5,
do that.
and you're not in the same place regularly. It's even in moments that seem domestic or normal to me. It's weird. You like just taking a little hike. Like Percy Warner. It's like this is weird. This is very strange.
But it's also like I think it's intensified. All the human aspects are intensified because of it. So it's like someone's ups and downs in their daily life are kind of like this, you know. And then with some with musicians, those arcs are a bit more.
It doesn't help that you have that artist sort of inside of you that makes everything seem a little bit more extreme as well.
It completely rewires your brain when you are on the road. You have this way of life, and that's a great example because the highs are higher and the lows are lower, and it's kind of hard to remain in that middle sort of area. But we all kind of aim to keep each other there, which is the goal. But mental health is a really important thing because it does change the way your brain works, and it gets confusing. And I remember the first couple of years of just not understanding what's going on, you know, having fun, but at the same time feeling a little different. And so that's, I mean, having each other is very helpful. Therapy is encouraged and very helpful as well.
Yeah. It gets into coping mechanisms. You can understand sort of how artists or musicians or whatever that they can get into like alcoholism or drug abuse and things like that because you're on the edge of oblivion.
Well, and you're not doing like a normal day-to-day
Step away
thing. Right, exactly.
What?
Something to tell us, darling. No. But then it's not like
Just went to the
a normal
garage.
job, right? So it's not like you're being. I guess it's not like you're being drug tested, or you're like you have the 9 to 5.
Unless you're crossing a border.
Like it's literally very. There's a party environment, when you see people that come to the show, everybody's just ready to have the biggest time ever, and you wanna give them that, and then you feel that too, and so it's hard to come down from that natural high that happens, and it's easy to just go, oh, I'll have another beverage. Oh, I'll have another beverage. That kind of thing can happen, and then you're like, boy, I'm just exhausted. So it's like watching that is important.
And you guys have mentioned a couple of times now how you had, it took a few years to figure things out, and then you've settled into this pattern. You've kind of found your groove. What happened? Was there some kind of paradigm shift after the first 2 or 3 years? Was it really just learning more about how to live on the road?
Well, unfortunately, we're all very stubborn. And a lot of the times it takes self-learning. You hit a wall, and then you kind of look at the mirror and go, well, that didn't feel very good. So you start to adapt based on that.
Strangely enough, I think almost just having the almost 2 years kind of break, or a year and some.
The pandemic.
The pandemic was actually kind of helpful to be yeah, the whole room. And that was actually kind of helpful because we were touring for I think about 4 straight years. Then we didn't live anywhere. When we had off time, we would go find a mountain somewhere or a beach somewhere, and you didn't live anywhere. It was just nonstop tour. So I think
The road was our home.
that's it. So
Troubadours.
I think that it was like getting sort of caught in the center of some vortex, and just to be able to step out for a minute made a huge difference. And you all of a sudden started to think a little more clearly and make connections that you don't usually make when you're so busy and you're constantly doing shows.
That's domestication.
No, I don't know about that. I mean,
Also,
Is if you make it.
I think
throw it. Let's see if
realizing
it sticks, huh?
that the job on the road is not the 2-hour show that we're on for, because that part's really fun.
Right.
It's all the traveling. It's getting on, plane to bus to, just constantly packing up your suitcase, going up to a hotel room, coming back down. So
Yeah, I've even heard
Whose
people say
quote?
you don't get paid to
Yeah.
play shows. You get paid to the travels what they're paying you for, because it is like a lot. You get all of these different.
it's the hardest part.
Yeah,
To wear you out.
That was the best thing Chris Stapleton ever told us.
Thanks, Chris.
God bless you. We'll remember you.
So we love it. Guys,
God bless his soul.
You always
He's really
have to look
tall,
up.
that's why.
Chris Stapleton's still
He's
alive?
actually really tall.
Eek.
So guys, we'd love to know, we've got this incredible audience here of individuals who are all going to go on to really successful, interesting, challenging things
No doubt.
in music.
Bravo. I look forward to seeing your faces in the stars.
We won't forget them.
All
That's
of them.
why he's looking up.
And
Right
so-
here, Jake. Right
Oh.
here.
Right. Sorry.
And so we'd love to know if you guys had some strategies that you could share with all of us today on what's really worked for you. How do you really stay healthy, grounded, balanced when you're on tour?
We don't.
You don't. But that's honest. that's honest.
We're
awful.
really curious why
We're
you
all
had us
fucked.
here in the first place today. I'm kidding. I don't know. I guess a lot of those things. I mean, trusting your intuition and your instinct is huge because sometimes you become a little bit self-conscious, and you can make decisions, I guess, based on fear or concern, and so trusting that decisions that you're going to make naturally that you that feel correct are correct, and that you should feel that you can trust the people that you surround yourself with, and surrounding yourself with the right people is huge, because I don't think we would be just probably some, I don't know, living like Jake said, we'd be just probably living in the streets, strumming away or whatever. I don't think we'd be anywhere if we didn't have the right people in our lives to guide us and to trusted in us and believed in our vision and helped us along the way. So those are some things.
On a less heartfelt note, I think just keeping yourself entertained, because you don't need me to tell you that there's only a couple hours of a day where you're actually working, no matter what your job is. So keeping yourself entertained with projects, something as simple as, taking up drawing or something, just to keep your artistic part of your brain functioning.
Get some jumpsuits in your spare time.
Yeah.
Send them my way.
Because like we're saying, it's not a normal job. There's a lot of waiting around, and you need something to kind of pour your energy into.
I'd say don't let your expectations drive, everything. I've learned that if you set a really, really high expectation, you start acting out of fear, and you start narrowing your pathway in a sort of sense. So, there are going to be days that are hard, and that is completely okay.
And you
completely
are
okay.
everything you need to be. Then that's true.
And booze.
You always are.
No,
So go with the
Lots of
flow.
Go with the flow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, I think it's interesting because the complexity of that question lies in the fact that not everybody is the same, that we're all so different and complex. And so everybody's method is going to be different. But what these guys have said, it's like, yeah, if you follow the instinct, if you trust yourself and you guide by individuality, you'll sort of find the place where you belong, and that's that through line.
It's amazing. Guys, thank you so much. Before we wrap up, we have time for a couple of questions from the audience. And so I've actually got some questions here from a couple of GRAMMY members that they wanted to pose to you.
It's a good look.
You wear it better. I'm jealous. Now I feel
Her
really
curls are way
insecure
tighter than
about-
yours, Joe.
I'm really insecure about
That's true.
myself right now.
So guys, just to start, in the beginning of your touring career, how did you know you were ready to start touring, and what did you do to prepare? That's such an interesting question.
Great
First,
question.
lost my shit. That's what I did, and then no, really, actually, basically, I was so frightened. I think I let anxiety get the best of me a little bit. I think sometimes if you're in tune, meditation is a huge thing to help to be able to connect the mind-body connection and be in tune with that. So
You
that's
must
one
lose
of-
yourself first to find one's mind.
Oh, jeez. What will we
Wow,
do?
another
full of 'em.
cliche.
You're just full of it today.
I read a
yeah.
bunch. I read a bunch on my way over.
Actually, meditation is one of the more effective things, because you know how your mind can just be swirling with these things. Like you were saying, we're really good at blowing things up and making it seem like it's worse than it is. If you just sit quietly and try to
Molehills, not
push away
Mole-
any thought for 5 minutes, you can come back to any situation and just see it as it really is. So I guess that is a really good tool. Should probably do that more often.
I like to say it, but I don't really practice that philosophy. It's just
Do as I say, not what as I do.
smart.
What?
Smart. It's
What?
Freudian.
What?
Freudian
What?
slip, right?
I think even the highs and lows, it's like when you think back at all those times that you felt like you were really rock bottom, and you can kind of go, that was just part of that moment, to that journey, and maybe I learned something from that. Maybe there's something underneath the surface that you needed to see that was part. Then it becomes part of you that you've learned from. So it's gonna be like ups and downs, and there's gonna be days that are feel impossible. But it feels like it, if you are aware, knowing that one day that'll be retrospective and that it's okay, and that it's not this huge thing that you're making it out to be, and meditating on just sort of clearing your mind a little bit, coming back to the space that heads the literal physical and cerebral space that you're in, and that everything seems to be a little bit more intact, and it's all part of an adventure at the end of the day. It's really this fuck fear and live your legend through the intelligence of love.
Huzzah!
The important thing.
Huzzah!
All right, that was a good
was that
interview.
guy.
Did he
I
get
love
2
it.
F-bombs?
I think he did.
We all
only got
agreed.
one.
Everybody gets
Oh,
one.
I told him
right.
he could have mine.
Right. Yep.
Danny
Right,
actually
now you're
gave
gonna
me
have to
his.
pay up,
This
Jake.
is going to stay PG-13. Then
Yeah,
you're
right.
going to have to watch
Right.
it, guys.
Also, if you read Lord of the Rings, it'll solve all your problems.
It's true.
true.
Also,
and you'll have something to do for maybe endless hours.
Yeah, for a couple of years. You read that.
And talk about
With a
your head
poet.
completely, clearing your head. I mean, that would probably do that too.
Guys, can we ask the Grammy U student who posed that question to stand up and introduce themselves if they're here?
let yourself be
That's a
known.
fabulous
Yes,
question.
please.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
The f-
Hey,
Hi, Emily.
thank you so much.
on the same elevator. Yeah, we did. We go way back to the first floor.
Almost. What happened?
Well, security
Thanks,
guys.
Emily.
Oh, dude.
So guys, we've got one more. We've got one more question. If I can ask the other member to stand up, I think we'd someone else with a question.
Please.
Okay, so I've got it here. So, what is the most rewarding aspect of live performance to you? Such a great question too.
It's complex. I mean, there's a part of performing every night.
Seeing the face of God.
Yeah,
That's my
I
favorite
mean,
part.
I know.
What?
I know everybody's
that.
faces just went. He's serious.
It's there. It's really there. That's
interesting.
that thing.
I think it's interesting, like sharpening the tools, because every single night, every single night you play, it's like you become a better musician. So it's like there was a period I think that everybody hits sort of creatively as a musician playing an instrument, or as an artist doing whatever, and the progress is immediate and expansive right off the bat, and then it becomes, I don't know how where else can I go and how much further can I be, because I know all the chords, I know all this stuff, but what comes next, and you don't know what to do. But doing that in succession, playing every single night, it grows that sort of boundary, and all of a sudden a door opens, and then there's a whole new level of musicianship that comes from it. And I like watching that sort of evolution with all these guys and myself, where what's gonna happen, what's new, because every night someone will do something that'll be like, wow, that was impressive.
Inspired by each other.
Right.
My biggest goal is to make people look at me during the show. When
Me
Sam
too,
looks
I
over
like
and
that.
smiles, I know I did something cool. And same with Jake, and same with Josh.
I know. It's
Yeah.
like, how much further should I?
If I
push
could look at
this?
myself, I would.
Should I slip? Yeah, exactly right.
could
You
look
are
at your
so
pointy
entertaining,
shoes.
Daniel.
Be like, wow, I'm really creative today.
You could get a mirror up there, I guess.
Good. I could.
It's true. There's this like healthy competitive sort of edge to the performance that we all experience, which is kind of playful. So that's one of those things too that can be exciting. But ultimately, there really is no description of the way that you feel when you're in that space, and that you're kind of trusting that something is coming from some higher place, and and streaming through you or flowing through you, and you're trying to channel that thing. And then there's this huge communicative thing that's happening with a space of people that can be, any size. It's just sort of like you do something, and then you see a reaction, and then you get something back, and it is like sort of a rocking horse of energy kind of thing, which is cool.
Yeah, you get like a positive feedback loop, and I like the idea that everybody leaves with inspiration, hopefully, and applies that inspiration to something else in their lives.
The performances are fun, but it gets really real when you get to firsthand communicate with the audience and the fans, and to realize that you've actually touched them in a way, which is and moved them. And as our musical influences moved us and inspired us to do the very thing that we're doing, you get to see that in others, and that gets me every time.
What I like about that is trying to communicate that in such a way that it's that all of us are this equal force, that we're all on the same level when we're in the space, that space where that thing is happening, and that's the coolest part about it. And I can be very nervous in my head, and I get stage fright all the time, and sometimes that's just channeled in such a way that it feels more exciting, like butterflies, which is the better feeling of the two, and not, boy, I'm gonna sound like.
By the way, it
this
never
is
goes
gonna
away.
be the worst, and I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna die, But I wrote a song for that too, which I sing, which helps me. But we'll just leave that for another time anyway. But it's like, yeah. But
I am the shit. I am the shit.
Look at me.
no, it's actually goes more like, I'm so nervous, I think that I might die. We hope the show is good enough and not a steaming pile of shit pie. Ah, bravo! That's it.
Very vaudeville. Not bad.
No, good interview.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I think there's so much inspiration there, as you said, for us to end on. So many great nuggets. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Guys, huge round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I guess thanks for listening.
The music is you.
I know we're a lot.
She
So
said we got a 5
appreciate it.
p.m. lecture, so we gotta.
So guys, we're going to take a few minutes break, and then we're going to come back with our next amazing panel. So thank you, everyone.
They're not going to be as interesting as this. I know.
No, definitely not.
Easy.
Easy.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Yes, thank you.
Goodbye,
Cheers.
all.
Thank you guys so much.